What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we're providing you a state of the market and stock picks for April 26, 2023. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing as I do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead in this glorious market. Now, we've had some huge earnings today. Tomorrow is going to be huge. Thursday is going to be huge. Friday is going to be huge, leading us into Apple, monetary policy, and non-farms next week. So, again, today there was a lot of huge earnings and a lot of big insights into what is going on. Today started out with McDonald's and with UPS, and they both essentially McDonald's did well, but ultimately understand that UPS tanked hardcore. And this is what we're starting to see is there's a big difference um, in earnings, right? Like some are going to do very well in a recession. McDonald's, obviously, cheap entertainment. Food is essentially cheap entertainment, right? And so, of course, McDonald's will do well. UPS not doing hot. It did actually horribly bad. And then after the close, we had Google, like I have pulled up here, and we had Microsoft, Enphase, Visa, and Chipotle. Chipotle crushed it today, had some of the best numbers. Obviously, the food industry will do very well in a recession period. Visa crushed it. Their growth rate is absolutely absurd. I believe it's sitting at like 23% year over year. So it's just growing at a phenomenal rate, and that is definitely not a good sign. Enphase for energy, it got absolutely obliterated. Google absolutely obliterated, even given everything that's going on. They got absolutely wrecked. But on a different token, Microsoft absolutely crushed it today. So you can see what went on with Google. But the numbers on Google are not good. It's again showing a lot of weakness, and this is something I said you really have to pay attention to. Is showing a lot of weakness in this current market and how some companies are going to be able to distinguish themselves from other companies during this time. So then we look at Microsoft, and Microsoft after hours absolutely just crushed it, essentially on everything cloud, a lot of their different office software. Again, leading the industry, right? They've also got Chat GPT. They've done a lot of investing, which has really helped them out during this time. And so they're absolutely crushing it. But like I said, and so is the food industries, but a lot of these other ones are hurting. And this gives us key insight, the fact that UPS didn't do very well at all. Now the next big thing is that we're going to have Amazon on Thursday. What is that going to look like, right? So you can kind of depict what's going to happen potentially for the next couple of earnings. Boeing probably going to do absolutely horrible. Meta is probably going to do very well. We have Meta tomorrow after the bell. We got Roku after the bell. We got ServiceNow after the bell tomorrow, which would be probably pretty good. Then we got American Air Thursday morning. I doubt that's going to be good. Caterpillar is probably going to be suffering bad. That's on Thursday morning as well. But there's MasterCard on Thursday, which will probably do extremely well. And then you have Cloudflare and Intel, which again, we've already kind of seen a lot last week with the chips didn't do so hot. So that's some things is that you have to understand that a lot of things are looking really bad. Now, Google could have done a lot better, but they've actually increased from last quarter. They've increased their employees, which is about like 27,000, which probably isn't a good thing because they cut into a lot of their margin. Now, if they cut people, they would probably have done very well. Now, we saw Microsoft, we saw a lot of heavy layoffs, and this is why these companies are still very profitable on top of everything. And so the ones that aren't cutting are the ones that are suffering, and that may lead Google to start cutting people. So, and again, big reason why. Again, McDonald's did very well, right? Like they haven't announced their layoffs yet either. And so, with that being said, we'll see what happens with Meta. Meta could do extremely well tomorrow because they have massives. They were one of the big leaders in and letting go of employees. And the same with Amazon. I believe Amazon is actually leading on that front with essentially removing people, right? And or firing people. So again, very, very mixed, right? But the majority of the theme of what's been going on is that there is a lot of weakness in everything, even with everything else. um, Things are getting absolutely wrecked. It's either one or the other. It gets really wrecked or it does very well. There's not really hardly anything in between. And one big thing that came out today because of yesterday, you have to understand that First Republic announced their earnings, and all we've gotten is backlash to the point to now where the government is going to buy First Republic, as the last we've heard. So now we've lost essentially another bank, is what's happening. And so, being said, do the fears of bank runs start coming back? This is information we just started getting later in the day. We started getting some really heavy selling to the back half of the day. We can jump over to SPX now. We started to get some huge, heavy selling today because of that fact, because of First Republic. And then Whirlpool, again, suffering really bad. Again, that shows you insight into what's going on with essentially the kind of the housing industry and people buying new homes, right? There's just not a lot of people there purchasing homes, and so they aren't going to buy appliances. And so again, you're seeing these things that we talk about on this channel are exactly that, right? Like we are recession, and the fact that the Fed is not laying off is making it worse, right? And so that is the concern, is that yes, you're going to have your companies are going to do very well. This is how companies take advantage of times like this. So your Microsoft will continue to absorb other companies during this time that are suffering, but are still really good companies. And so this is what happens during a recession is, again, these bigger juggernauts they're surviving during this time and have a lot of excess money will start investing. And you have to also understand, even a lot of these ones like Google, massive buybacks. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So just keep that in mind too. So with all that being said, now we'll see what happens going forward. Again, tomorrow, still, I think there's still going to be a lot of digestion with what's going on with First Republic. Again, they lost like 90% of their stock value over the past couple of days. UPS got hit massively. Let me pull up UPS real quick, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here, because they got just absolutely obliterated today. So UPS absolutely obliterated today. Definitely not good signs. And so going into tomorrow, yes, we're going to have a couple more earnings, but again, the bigger earnings that we're waiting, we really want to see what's going on. Meta, I think, is going to do really well, especially after all the layoffs. And then you got Amazon on Thursday, I think, is a big one we really want to watch. And then you kind of want to watch Caterpillar Thursday morning as well, because Caterpillar is going to give you insight into construction, where a lot of jobs are and stuff. So keep in mind with that as well. But Amazon is going to be definitely a big player. And then we are rolling into Apple, and understand Apple next week. Apple holds a large percentage of what's going on in the general index. You have to also understand that Tesla didn't do so well. Normally, Tesla and Apple do very well. You can normally determine what happens one with the other, so there might be why that's Apple's pushed back till next week, because if Tesla has already done bad, not fantastic. Even though it's I mean it's like a fantastic, obviously a fantastic company, but because of the current situation, it's going to show some weakness. I think we could potentially be getting that with Apple. And again, what you're seeing is services that are doing very well. So, and our Microsoft's services did extremely well. Ads for Google did extremely bad because of the fact that nobody's buying anything, right? And so it again feeds into this thesis. And so services will do well. That's why I think Meta will do really well tomorrow. Aside from that, if it's not a service, it's probably going to get hit. If it's not food or a service, it's probably going to get hit really bad. And so again, that's something we can start depicting out from a couple of these earnings. That's what we're seeing so far. That's the theme anyway. We'll continue to watch and see how that plays out. Again, if we have concern with the banks again, and going into another earnings is going to be really bad, and especially with another 25-point basis move. We're already sitting at 90% chance that we're going to get another 25-point basis move. So So with that being said, we can go into the technicals now. Again, we sold off heavily today. We didn't even bounce today. We might get some sort of a bounce. I don't really know how much help Microsoft is. Microsoft does hold a lot of weight in the index, but again, when majority of everything is just selling off heavily, it doesn't really matter how well you do. Now we might get some running, but I think again, you got Boeing in the morning. They also hold a lot of weight on the index. If they do really, really bad, which they never really do good, they sell off pretty heavy. If there's concerns there, it could start dropping the market and add to the sell pressure tomorrow. And then again, you have Meta after hours, which will probably hold up the market pretty well if they do well, which I'm expecting them to do well. Roku, not really expecting a lot there. I mean, you can really kind of see what the whole platform is really going to do. You won't. It's a big give you insight into what's going to what could potentially happen with Amazon. Amazon's got its feet in so many different things that it really doesn't matter. But again, we'll see. It's unfolding very pretty much almost as advertised, like we've been talking about on this channel. So with that being said, technical wise, again, this thing needs to bounce up. We can jump back to the daily here. Again, we're at support roughly around this 40.68. If this gives up tomorrow, we open below this. Again, we're going to start making our way down to 3,800. That's a given. If we blow past it and go any deeper than that, I think you're going to have to really see what happens with the banks. Right now, we're starting to get fewer of the banks back with First Republic. If that starts to sink in and we start pricing in a recession, could drop us past the 3,800, but we'll see. I'm at least expecting us to get down to 3,800, especially with some bad earnings. Again, it really just depends on what feeds into the next couple of days as we move forward. Again, new information is going to get released, and so we'll start finding out what's going on. More insights, more layoffs, all those kinds of things will start being introduced to everybody. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Again, we'll get a lot of downgrades. Again, Microsoft did very well. Services right now, cloud services in particular, doing very, very well. So it'll be interesting to see how Amazon does, because they are cloud, but yet they still have a lot of retail on it as well. So they're going to take some big hits in some particular spots. But again, I think their cloud service will do very well. So it really just depends on how they do. But we also know that they've been one of the leaders in layoffs. So we'll see what happens there, but we do definitely need to hold this. The bulls need to hold this. If not, like I said, we're going to come back down. I don't see us breaking out 4,200 just because Microsoft did well. I don't think that's going to break us out past 4,200 when the rest of the market is doing absolute trash. So we shall see. Bitcoin is roughly holding. Looks like it's a break, a retest. We'll see if it can't break back over this 28K. If it can't, again, I see this starting to head lower. Otherwise, it could potentially push back up to that 31K mark, but we're going to have to see there. Again, it's still detached the market. This move kind of shows you that I think it's, again, just going to follow the market until the market sells off, price in a recession, and then we go from there. Again, it's just strictly my opinion, but we'll see. Gold, again, looking like recession gold. Still very strong. Looks like it's winding up for the next. Essentially, it's winding in this section right here. It's a nice consolidation box right here. So I think it will hold this, wind up, and then wait for the next breakout. Could be a very strong possibility. So just keep that in mind. Bonds. This is something to keep in mind. The bonds started pushing up again. People were buying bonds like crazy. Again, it's very recessionary when you got gold and bonds pushing like crazy. People are getting concerned, especially with the First Republic news that came out. You have to understand that's what people were worried about. Now we're getting exposure. They try to tuck away First Republic, but now we're finding out what's really going on. And now it's causing a huge ruckus and concern. Again, because if more banks start going on or under, again, you're going to start hitting small business, and that's going to, a lot more people are going to start losing jobs. And that's what the concern is about. So Tesla roughly holding, it kind of broke below that 42 mark and then try to pop back up today. We'll see if this thing holds down. Remember, if it breaks 158, it's coming down to 140. I expected it to at least get down to 140. But again, we'll really see what happens. It's kind of just consolidating here. But again, if Apple fails, the rest of the market starts failing, this thing is going to come down, in my opinion, as well, at least down to the 140. We'll see what happens moving forward. Again, we're still right in the middle of earnings. We need to get out of earnings. If there's more continued bad earnings, which I'm expecting to see, I'm kind of expecting Apple to miss. Again, if that does miss, that could be a huge drop in the bucket, plus another 25-point basis move. And then if we get a huge drop on non-farms next week, that could be the last here on the camel's back that broke. So just be mindful of that. That's kind of what could potentially happen there. So Tesla right now, if you want to be bullish, it needs to be break past 166. Again, you're out of Tesla's earnings cycle now. So for the next 3 to 4 weeks, you can't expect a lot from Tesla. I think Tesla will start selling off and just consolidating over the next 4 weeks. Again, really depending on what happens with the market sentiment in general. But aside from that, I think we'll see if we start heading down or pushing back up. But ultimately, right now, it's consolidating. So watching those levels, the 166, and then watching that 158 to see if that does break tomorrow or the next coming days. Now, BA, like I said, it does have earnings tomorrow. It's been playing this huge consolidation, looking for a big move. I'm actually really expecting this thing to kind of break that essentially the 192 mark we've been talking about forever to the downside. I don't see this thing really breaking up. It's never done well on earnings, so we'll see what happens. But you can always watch the 220 to the upside if it wants to start getting crazy. Again, I just don't see that happening. The way things that we've kind of already projected them as being isn't very good. So you can see in here, there's more worry coming back in the banks, and you got your number one bank selling heavy today. So we'll see. I'm expecting this to at least fill this gap. So a break of the 134. If that breaks below that tomorrow, big thing is to watch banks first thing in the morning. If they do gap down, you can expect the rest of the market to gap down. I'm expecting this gap to be filled the next coming days. And then this gap eventually down here as well. So eventually leading us back down to the 107. We'll see what happens there. But like I said, the First Republic, again, all these banks are turning over. At least Goldman Sachs will sell back down to the 322, I think. It needs to break up over the 347 if you really want this thing to start going. Bank of America, big dip. Looking for this thing to sell, to hold the 27. If not, this thing is going to continue to sell off. Otherwise, it needs to break back over the 31 mark and start pushing if you want this thing to be more bullish. So again, I don't want to make this video too long. It is late, so I do apologize for the late video, but ultimately, we got a lot of information. It's all still picking back to the main thesis that we talk about on this channel all the time, in that we are looking at a recession and recession numbers. And so, yes, some companies will still do well, right? They've are smart about it. So even your Teslas are really, really weak, and your Googles are really weak because a huge chunk of their advertising or huge profits or revenues come from advertising, and nobody's advertising right now because there's no liquidity. Nobody's buying. Visa's doing very well, right? You have to go back to these earnings and piece everything together. What is actually strong points towards a recession. It doesn't point to things getting better. So this is why we watch earnings and kind of depict what's really going on here, see which industries are doing well, which industries are not, and then kind of come to a conclusion after that. So again, we'll see. Well, we'll see from here. But so far, again, feeding very much into the thesis. I think we need to price in a recession, and then from that point, we can continue forward and get to a point where we can start cutting rates. And what we need is we need normalization, which means some huge selling. Maybe that's to the banks. Maybe we start losing more banks, especially now that First Republic is out the door. What's the next ones? They're going to be out the door, and then again, some of those might affect. If you understand the cascading effect of what happens is when you lose a bank, You could potentially lose a lot of commercial loans. You can potentially lose a lot of company payrolls, and then know that that's going to start leading to more layoffs, and then more layoffs lead to a huge destruction in demand. And that's what we're kind of looking for there on that aspect of everything. But with all that being said, again, we talk about the market here, so we remove emotion from what's going on. You have to take that approach when you are investing, when you are looking at these things. And so that's what we do here is we try to remain emotionless, and we make it based off of what we're seeing in front of us. So with all that being said, have a great day, and I'll see you guys later.